It's the Larry Kudlow Show. Free market prosperity starts here. Now, here's Larry Kudlow.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Larry Kudlow. This is the Larry Kudlow Show, Hour 3. By the way, you can get us over the internet. You can live stream us over the internet for this radio show. LarryKudlowShow.com, LarryKudlowShow.com. Plays all across the country, around the world, throughout the solar system and the Milky Way. We've picked our numbers up quite a bit on the Milky Way. Thank you for that. And during the week, please dial up Fabulous Fox Business Network. The name of the show is Kudlow, and it's 4 to 5 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And if for some crazy reason you can't get there at 4, why, text your favorite 9-year-old, and she will show you how to DVR the show. It's not hard. Anyway, let's talk stocks, which is a very pleasant thing to talk about. Let's see. The Dow was up 515 points. The Nasdaq was up 246. The S&P 500 up 80. I believe we are near record highs. Let's see. The Dow is 41,175. The S&P 500 is 5,635. Ooh, pretty good. All right, our two experts, Jeff Kilberg, CEO of KKM Financial, Jon Najarian, co-founder of Market Rebellion, two old friends. All right, Jeff Kilberg, off to the races. No matter what happens, stocks are going up. It's a great country, you know, America. It's a wonderful place to be.
Absolutely, Larry. It's a pleasure to be here with you and Dr. J, my first boss in the business at CBOE. But you're absolutely right. We are seeing stocks kick off just like college football today. But I do believe that we're in a range, Larry. I think we're still trying to figure out how heavy of a hand the Fed's going to be. The 10-year note at 4.8% with the S&P 500 at this high 5,600 level. I think we see a little bit of euphoria that was produced last week about the Fed signaling that they're finally going to kick off interest rate cutting, which still doesn't make sense to me. But I do think we're going to see that euphoria dampen a little bit as we go into Labor Day.
Jon Najarian, Jeff Kilberg's worried about euphoria. That's a good thing to worry about in general for stocks and maybe the rest of our lives. But there are things like slowdown in jobs, a slowdown in the economy, potential slowdown in profits, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe the market doesn't care about that. You tell us.
Well, I think the market does care about it. I think we've and great to be on with you and with Jeff, Larry. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. I think the market cares. When we had that reversal of those 818,000 jobs, I think a lot of people immediately hit a sell button. Now, that was probably not the proper thing to do, but nonetheless, there are so many signs that what we think we see is not real. And I would posit that we're going to see this cut to interest rates, which the CME target right now, and that's with real money, folks. That's not based on just confidence or anything else. This is where money is being placed, has the cut being 76% for a 25 basis point cut. I think we get that in September 18th, but I think that's a sell on that news because people are still hoping against hope that it's going to be 50, Larry, and those people are going to be disappointed. For everybody else, we're going to say, hey, it was fully priced in, and it's been priced in for a couple months that we're going to get this, with the exception of August 5th when we had that big decline, and all of a sudden people started hollering for an emergency in-between meeting cut. It's been 25 basis points, and I think that's going to be something that rather than the euphoria, which Jeff's right, we could see, I think we'll see probably a sell on the news September 18th. And then we're in the real heart of the last drive for the election into the actual November election.
Just on the point, though, John, to follow up, the futures market is pricing in rapid-fire 25 basis point cuts for the next 12 or 15 months. Now, has the stock market discounted that, or when these cuts come, if they come, I'm not sure they will, but because the futures market's had a lousy track record. But whatever. Is it in the market or is it still out there?
I think most of those are already priced in, and that's why outside of tech and AI and the frenzy around that, I think the pricing in of multiple cuts going perhaps 12 to 15 months into the future, I think that's priced in. People are expecting that, and I do not expect that. I expect a couple cuts, maybe 3 of them, perhaps, depending where the economy is. If it's shuddering a little bit, maybe we get a 50 basis point cut in 2025. But other than that, I think we'll get 3 25 basis points cuts, not a series of 8 or 10 of them.
Well, just to jump in real quick, Dr. J, it's interesting. If we go back to last November, the market was pricing in 6 interest rate cuts for 2024, and we got nothing of that sort. Maybe we get 1 or 2, but that inevitability of those interest rate cuts have propelled the S&P 500 higher, about 30% since last November. Arguably not in a straight line because we've had some volatility in this month of August. But the overarching theme, which is really going to be fascinating this week, Larry, is going to be NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been the AR darling, and they continue to deliver, and the stock continues to go up despite the fact we had a little hiccup when we saw a cute type of carry trade come out of Japan. We saw big sellers. NVIDIA went down to 90, but here it is, back up $130, and we're seeing the earnings come out this Wednesday. So if we do see the AI theme deliver again, maybe we move markets higher and test new highs short term.
You know, we were looking, John mentioned the election, but so we have Kamala Harris who wants to put price controls on food and groceries and Lord knows what, also rents. So I was looking at profit margins. Profit margins for grocers are like 1%. All right, it's terrible. Profit margins for beef, 4%, 4.5%, terrible. Every company in America, profit margins about 8.5%, which, is fair, okay. Profit margins for these high-flying tech companies, including NVIDIA, they're about 35, 40, 45%.
Remarkable.
Really enough, you're going to have price controls, put them on NVIDIA. I'm just kidding. I'm opposed to price controls. But, I mean, grocers are making 1%. NVIDIA's making 35 or 40%, and she wants to go and have price controls. But I digress. What is the profits outlook in general, Jeff Kilberg?
Well, I think earnings season kind of gave us a little bit of a forecast of that, where once again we had a better than expected earnings season. But however, you did see the forward guidance. There were some dimmer than usual forecasting because of the slowing growth. And you could argue that maybe we already are in a recession in some sectors of the economy. But overall, I think we are going to expect slower growth. But that's going to be the threading of the needle for the Fed, because they're going to want to be prudent. They're not going to want to cut interest rates. To Doc's point, I think we only get 3 or 4, and then they're going to have to let off the gas because they're going to move the interest rates arguably too fast, too quickly. And when that has ramifications, like we saw the VIX just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, the VIX went up to 65 and then had a historic crash down under 15. There's reverberations. It's like taking, a football and throwing in the middle of a pond. You see ripple effects. I don't think we've felt all of the ripple effects in the volatility on the month of August.
Did you say it's like throwing a football into the middle of Notre Dame defense?
Well, hey, I got a great story for you, Larry. So my first job with Jon and Pete Najarian, the reason I got hired, so Jon played in the NFL, played for the Bears, but his brother Pete played for Coach Holtz at the University of Minnesota. So I walked in with a resume in hand. I think I had a pepperoni pizza stain on it. So I showed him that I played for Coach Holtz, and I was hired on the spot. So there it goes, back to the Golden Dome.
By the way, I want to say Coach Holtz, Lou Holtz, is a very dear friend of mine. I just love the guy. We serve on a couple of boards together. He is just the most extraordinary human being. I knew him later in life. I didn't know him I know Jon was an NFL player and his brother was an NFL player. But I'm just saying, I didn't know him during the football days. I've known him the last, 10 or a dozen years. And he is just the most remarkable human being and a great example to all of us how he conducts himself. I mean,
he gives back like crazy, Larry.
Yes.
Yes. Somebody like Jeff that played for him and that was on some of those championship teams with Coach Holtz. There is no experience like that. I'm sure some people at Alabama would argue with me, Jeff, but there's nothing like playing under the Golden Dome with touchdown Jesus in the end zone.
Well, I asked, Senator Tommy Tuberville, who's also a friend of mine, was a great football coach for Auburn and some other schools, and he is a huge admirer of Lou Holtz. Huge admirer of Lou. And I will see. We're on the board. The America First Policy Institute. We're going off the stock market. We'll come back to it. But on the AFPI board, and Lou Holtz is on the board, and I see him at the gatherings, and he always gives me a big hug. I mean, he's just extraordinary. He's just one of those people that make you feel better. You know what I mean? And you want to straighten your back up and your moral outlook. That's the way he is. And he's a national resource. I don't know about Notre Dame football this year, though. Jon Najarian, you want to critique it? Because you can't listen to Kilberg. You want to give me 30 seconds on Notre Dame football.
Notre Dame football will always be just a legendary and a fabulous experience for anybody who has done it. They will tell you the same. But I think overall the teams this year are Oregon, Ohio State. I think those are two of the biggies. Texas. I'm not including Notre Dame in there just yet, Jeff, but that gives you guys lots of room to jump in and surprise people.
Jeff, when did you play? When did you play for them?
In the 90s. So my 4 years with Coach Holtz last year. What I like to say, Larry, is that when Coach Holtz realized I was graduating from the University of Notre Dame, he thought it was time for him to leave too. So the last season was 1996.
Were you on the? Was that a national championship team?
No, I was just after that. Chris Zorich, Tony Rice, those guys were on the 88 national chip team. I was on the 93 game of the century when we played Charlie Ward and we beat Florida State. And Florida State's playing right now in Dublin, Ireland.
That's right. That's right. Wow. And Jon Najarian, you played some good pro football.
Well, I was mainly fodder, Larry, running down on kickoffs and punts, but I got to play for the Bears because Mike Singletary, a guy you may have heard of, held out on his contract, so that allowed me to stick around a little longer.
You can get killed on those teams, though. You on those
yes,
special
you can.
teams.
They call it suicide for a reason.
I know. By the
he
way,
was the killer, though, Larry. He was the killer on kickoff.
I bet he was. Well, there's no nicer guy than Jon Najarian. I knew Ditka, by the way.
The best.
I met him several times. Good man, very nice, and by the way, interested in economics and financial stuff. The reason I met him is because he used to watch CNBC when I was a CNBC host. But I digress even more than I want to because we love Fox Business. All right, we got to take a break. This is fun talking about all this stuff. Jeff Kilberg, CEO, KKM Financial. Jon Najarian, co-founder Market Rebellion. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back.
This is the Larry Kudlow Show. Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back, folks. We're talking stocks, kind of, sort of, with two of the best, Jeff Kilberg, KKM Financial, and Jon Najarian, Market Rebellion. So, Jon Najarian, an ordinary investor, middle income, working folks, they've got a good percentage tied up in an IRA or a 401k. Maybe they got profit sharing with their employer. What do you recommend strategically? What do you recommend for them?
Well, I've been saying this for a while, Larry. I think energy is the place to be. Obviously, AI or artificial intelligence and all of the bricks that go into that, everything from data centers like VRT, Vertiv, that's a data center REIT, to many of the other competitors to NVIDIA that Jeff is absolutely right. That's a pivotal move this next week with their earnings. But AMD, Micron are right there with them. Super Microcomputer and Dell. You've heard Elon Musk talk about those and his desire to just get a massive amount of what both of those two companies do to help his AI business. But I'd say energy, Larry, because everything we're talking about with AI is going to be driven by how much energy we can spare, because between artificial intelligence, data centers, and EVs, we're going to strain our grid to the max. And so I'd say nuclear like Camco, CCJ, and nanonuclear, which is NNE. That's a micro reactor technology. I think those kinds of plays will bear fruit for years to come.
That's
because
fascinating.
We just can't get enough energy, Larry.
Fascinating. Interestingly, oil prices, well, Brent crude, $79. It's been hovering around 80, but West Texas down to 70, I'll call it 74. I'm just looking at, by the way, that was a really good set of recommendations. I mean, those are good, all good names, very thoughtful. Yes, other thing is, Jeff Kilberg, gasoline prices $3.42. I mean, it's higher than it was 4 years ago, but it has come off.
It has. Yeah, it has. And a little relief at the pump definitely is helping the consumer, but we are having some question marks on the consumer strength. The consumer has been the overarching theme to really kind of help this market rally continue. But I think that to John's point, we're really being selective. We're kind of fishing a little bit more in some of the blue chip names, and we want to own, obviously, what's been working, but we're a little bit cautious of the NVIDIAs in some of the Mag 7, if you will. But if you look at names kind of in that tech space, which coattail that, but it's more outside that, look at an Oracle. We look at a Palo Alto Network, even IBM. I know we used to make fun of Big Blue, but it's up 20% this year. So those are names that we also want to know as we kind of tilt away from those. But we're also going to own Costco. JP Morgan should prevail in this situation. Berkshire Hathaway has had a nice year, up about 27%. So there's other names out there that I think at this moment in time you can kind of take some profits and tilt in them. We call it our Essential 40 portfolio. So I think owning some essential names, it's kind of like the Peter Lynch 2.0, not just buy what you know, Larry, is buy what you use. And I think that's going to be pertinent as we see markets continue to be volatile going into Election Day in November.
Very interesting.
And I would throw on top of that, I agree with all of those picks, Jeff, not surprisingly, because Jeff's a really smart guy. But I would say, Larry, anytime you see an easing in the VIX, the volatility index, it was down around 12 just before that big jump that Jeff spoke to 65. It was up 7% yesterday with the markets up across the board.
Oh.
Why do you think that is? Because we're going to see more volatility post-DNC and into the fall here.
I got it. You guys are great. Jeff Kilberg, KKM Financial, Jon Najarian, Market Rebellion. Really appreciate it, gentlemen. Quick break, folks. We're going to do some money in politics. The other side.